It's Thursday, July 23rd, 2020. This is Digital Trends Live. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Wherever you are, we do appreciate it. Of course, we broadcast live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. And let's get started with some trending news here right now. Talking about Twitter. Once again, we're going to go back to the great hack of 2020, where a number of different verified accounts, major accounts, were hacked by a Bitcoin scammer. And we've got some more information on what actually happened there. So Twitter's slowly been revealing some of the things that happened, some of the details. We know this: 130 total accounts were targeted by attackers, and up to 36 of them, the attackers were able to access the DMs of those accounts, the direct messages. That's a pretty major step. That was something that we weren't sure of with the hack, whether or not that happened. Pretty much all of the accounts were posting the same thing. We haven't heard any word about the DMs, but this is what they said. So up to 36 accounts did have their DMs actually accessed. Turn off your phone when you're doing live broadcast. And also, one of the big things was that there was an elected official in the Netherlands who actually had theirs hacked. And that's one of the big concerns that came down to this was, are officials going to be having, when you come to political officials, were any of theirs hacked? Because you did have, of course, Joe Biden, you had Obama, you had a number of different political officials who had theirs hacked and were posting these things, but that's the concern, whether or not the DMs were hacked. Now, they did say that it appears only to be the Netherlands official who had theirs accessed, so the rest of them were not political affiliates. But still, nonetheless, a lot of news coming out there with that. We've got all the details about that at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on here with trending news, let's talk about this. Coming up on July 27th, there's going to be a major summit for Congress, and this is because of antitrust investigations. Now, this is a pretty huge gathering that's going to be happening of people testifying before this committee, and that includes the CEOs of Amazon, Apple, Google, and Facebook, all going to be there. Yes, they're all going to be there. And this is before the House Judiciary Committee on July 27th. And now there are calls for Jack Dorsey to also be one of the people to appear there. And this is pretty major. When it comes down to that, this is because Jim Jordan of Ohio is calling for Dorsey to be added to the lineup, mainly because of what happened last week with the hack, but also just to be part of this antitrust investigation. This is a continuing thing that's been happening for a while now, of Congress and different officials wanting to investigate the net worth of these companies, whether they're squashing competition, and that's why it's going to happen. But still, at the same time, Mark Zuckerberg, Sundar Pichai, Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos, and possibly Jack Dorsey all being in front of Congress on the same day for this antitrust hearing on July 27th. It's going to be a major event that a lot of people are going to be watching. We've got some analysis of that at digitaltrends.com, so take a look there. No word yet if Jack Dorsey is going to be one of the people, but still could be adding one more to that tech titan list that will be testifying on July 27th. Continuing on here with more Digital Trends Live, let's talk about Facebook. Facebook continues to make updates to a number of different platforms on their service, but this is one that goes for their move to fight Zoom. So to be a better competitor to Zoom, and this has to do with Messenger Rooms. So Messenger Rooms is something that they launched a while ago. It was a couple of months ago, I believe, back in April when this first rolled out. And it was the ability to have different, basically Zoom-like meetings. And now they're adding in some more features to that. So they're going to allow you to live broadcast those video calls with up to 50 participants, meaning you could stream these to either a Facebook page or a Facebook group or a profile. Any one of those you would be able to do. And you would be able to control who can participate in the call, who can view the broadcasts. You can add or remove participants, so that way you can kind of lock it down and prevent the Zoom bombing issue that happens with Zoom calls sometimes, although they have put in measures themselves to control that. But still, this shows how much of an impact that Zoom has had over the last several months during this pandemic, what all these other companies are trying to do to compete with them. You've got Facebook, you've got Google, Microsoft. Everybody wants to go after this, but this is Facebook putting this option right there for Messenger Rooms to stream it and broadcast it directly on your page, profile, or account. So definitely a pretty big move by them. That's going to be rolling out today, so you'll probably see that updated there if you use Messenger Rooms. Read more about it at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on with trending news, let's talk about Elon Musk. Elon in the news right now talking about Tesla. So Tesla had their earnings report go out, and a couple of big things for this. So one, they were profitable for, I believe, the fourth quarter in a row that they were profitable, so that's a big thing for them. He also made a statement saying that Teslas are too expensive. He said, quote, "What bugs me the most right now is that our cars are not affordable enough. We need to fix that. We're not trying to go bankrupt, but we're not trying to be super profitable either," saying that Teslas are too expensive. I want you to keep in mind that Elon Musk was briefly the 5th richest man in the world earlier this week with a net worth of about $78 billion. But he does say that Teslas are too expensive. They want to get the price down. Going from that, we did get some updates on the Cybertruck. So there was a big competition going on about where the Cybertruck was going to be built, and it really kind of came down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Austin, Texas. Austin being the winner. Austin did win this competition from Tesla to where they were going to build their plant. So this is going to be happening in Travis County. It's about 2,000 acres of land is where they're going to be building this thing. They got $14.7 million in tax incentives to be there. But the Cybertruck is something that's going to be a very interesting entrant into the e-truck market. We've got a lot of other companies that are trying to compete with this, but as we all know, in case you forgot, the Cybertruck, it's there. It's going to be built. It's strange looking, but nonetheless, they're going to be getting these out. Now, they're going to start at $39,000. The mid-range model is $49,000, and there's a triple motor top-end version that's $69,000 for these. But again, they're going to start building these in Austin, so they've got to build the plant first, then they'll get rolling. We don't have a word on when exactly those are expected to come out, but nonetheless, the pathway is now being laid out for the Cybertruck to be on the roads soon. There you go. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on with trending news, let's talk about streaming television, and that we all know is a very competitive market. But what about Plex? Plex now adding some more options into their robust platform. They've got now 80 free ad-supported live streaming TV channels that you can watch on the platform. Now, if you haven't used Plex before, Plex is kind of basically an amalgamation of a bunch of different services. You can utilize it for videos, for photos, for music, for podcasts. You can stream music through it. It's kind of a portal to stream a bunch of different things all at the same time through this one platform. And you can also share private videos on there as well, or movies or whatever you have. If you have some own personal movies, you can share them with other people through file sharing on there. Now they're adding in these free channels, 80 free ad-supported live streaming TV channels. They're going to have things such as Reuters, Yahoo Finance, and then some Fubo is going to be on, or Fubo, excuse me, Fubo is going to be on there. You've got the Bob Ross channel, which I did not know Bob Ross had his own channel, but nonetheless, that's something I think I support, the Bob Ross channel. And then a number of different platforms that'll be, a number of different streaming channels that'll be on there. But that is something that Plex, again, is doing to kind of add into this. There were rumors they could be going into a subscription model, but so far that's not happening. But that is something else you can do there. So we've got a guide for that at digitaltrends.com. You can go through and take a look at it. If you haven't used Plex, it is a very interesting platform. You can do a lot through it, but that's adding in one more thing there as they try to compete with everybody else. Moving on here for our final trending news topic, let's talk about the mission to Mars. And I'm not talking about the one that NASA is launching next week, the one that China just launched. So yes, China is sending a mission to Mars themselves, and it successfully launched. So this is what is called the Tianwen-1. So Tianwen-1, and that is the name of the mission itself. So it consists of a Martian orbiter, lander, and rover. They want to get these on there, so they have the orbiter above. The lander, if successful, would provide a pad for the rover to then go out and do its missions, which its missions are they're all going to kind of work together, and their missions are to explore the past of Mars, to see maybe the possibility of life, what the terrain was like before, and a number of different things and scientific missions that go along with that. So if they are successful with this, they would be the only other space entity other than NASA to successfully carry out this mission. The Soviet Union had one that landed in 1971, only lasted for about 20 seconds. The ESA, the European Space Agency, has failed a couple of times. So this would be a pretty major feat if they're able to do it. And again, the U.S., NASA is launching scheduled in about a week of time. They've got a window of time for that, but earliest about a week. So these two, potentially two different missions could be landing about the same time on Mars. So definitely interesting on that. It's pretty exciting stuff. You can read more about it at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
Yes, indeed, it is time for the product of the day. And I want to say we've got some great things here for you on this. Of course, I want to let you know every day we do have a different product of the day here. And this is ours. So you can get this with the GoPro. So it's the GoPro Hero 6 Black. And that is what we're talking about. So always A great thing to have along if you want to capture those moments as you go throughout the day. The Hero 6 being one of their really good ones that GoPro has put out. This thing has got a battery that'll last for quite a long time. It's got the Hero 6 Black, so it's got an improved quality over the last one. So if you have the Hero 5, a great time to update it. It's got some ways that you can quick story edit videos and all kinds of things with it. And here's the deal right now. If you click that link that's below me or to the side of me, whenever you see that pop up, that is how you're going to be able to take advantage of this. It is $169.99 right now. So again, that's the GoPro Hero 6 Black 4K action camera. That is our product of the day. So take advantage of that and click through that link right there. All right, we've got a lot coming up here on today's show, but up next, we've got Jeremy Allen White. Yes, you may know him as Lip from Shameless, but he's got a new movie coming out called The Rental. It's Dave Franco's directorial debut, and we're going to be talking all about that, so stick around. We'll be right back after this with more Digital Trends Live. And welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit subscribe. That way we can join the show here every single day because we get to talk to awesome people. And I want to say this. You, of course, know our next guest as Lip from Shameless. He's Schreier in Homecoming and now starring in the new movie, The Rental, which features two couples staying in an oceanside cabin when things go wrong. It is Jeremy Allen White joining us. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, yeah, of course. Thanks so much for having me.
I've got a lot of things to ask you about that I want to talk about, but first off, when it comes to this movie, where it's two couples going to a cabin on, kind of an oceanside stay, it seems like it's going to be this romantic thing, and obviously things go wrong. When it comes to a thriller like this, if you would call it that, or horror, or wherever this goes, how do you prepare for a role like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the plan was always that we kind of came together with Dave and we wanted to approach the movie more than anything, just like a character study, It was about these relationships and kind of like the breaks in these relationships of the couples. And certainly like my character, Josh, and his brother, Charlie's relationship, played by Dan Stevens. So our approach, I think, was just to try and get to understand these characters and get really invested in them. And then, everything that happens around that is kind of out of the character's control. And we're all kind of just reacting to that sort of madness,
So kind of along for the ride with it.
Right.
Well, when it comes to that, I obviously don't want to spoil anything. This is in the trailer, but it showcases like a camera being seen in one of the shower rooms. And, definitely disturbing stuff, kind of worst nightmare for all of us. Have you ever experienced anything creepy like that on a ride share or maybe staying in an Airbnb?
No, it's funny. I think kind of the first Airbnb I stayed at was while filming this movie. We were in Bandon, Oregon, and production put me and my family up in this little like beach cottage in Bandon, and it was it was a lovely experience. And since then, I've used it, and it's been really great. So this movie didn't deter me from staying in any Airbnbs, but I'm sure it might do for some.
That's funny because I'm actually based in Portland, Oregon, so I do know where Bandon is. It is tiny town on the coast. What was it like staying in a place like that where you're on location filming?
It was so great. It's cool when you do movies like this. I mean, first of all, the cast was very small and the crew was very small. I mean, the scale of the movie in general was small, and we were in this small, very beautiful town in Bandon. So it was a lot like going to camp, for grown-ups. We were all, having dinner every night together. All of our homes were pretty close to one another, so and all right on the coast, like right on the beach. So we were walking on the water all the time, and it was just a really really nice experience.
Well, when it comes to that, just to kind of switch to a little bit of a tech angle, since we are
Yeah.
to talk about tech here on the show, like when you go on location, what is the one piece of tech you can't live without?
I mean, I'm not such a tech savvy guy. I mean, I would say my phone, but I suppose that's kind of like a boring answer. But I do um, I love watching movies. I love movies, and I was really impressed by something that Dan Stevens brought along, who played my brother. He had one of these compact sort of projectors. I guess you could like play movies from your phone or your iPad onto this very small projector and project something onto a wall. And I definitely thought about investing in something like that. It seems like something nice to bring to sets.
Well, talking about this, and just with the state of the world right now, and obviously with the pandemic and shooting, stopping, and I don't know when it's starting back up, but going
Yeah.
along those lines, and you mentioned that you like movies. What are some of the movies that you've been watching lately, or even shows that you've been binging?
Yeah, yeah. We've been watching every Sunday night this great show called I May Destroy You on HBO. I think they're on about their seventh episode. That's really been something to look forward to every week. It's really fantastic. And I think I've kind of been watching just in these last couple weeks. I've been watching some of the movies that Dave had recommended we watch when we were preparing for the movie, just to kind of get my head back into that place in preparation to do press and stuff. So I've rewatched Hereditary recently, and The Shining was one. Texas Chainsaw was one. So I've been watching, I think, a lot of horror stuff, kind of gearing up for this.
Well, and with this release, you talked about The Rental, which again coming out July 24th, and it looks like it's going to be in some drive-ins as well, at least according to what I'm seeing, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. Well, for this, and looking forward to what's coming up for you personally. I mean, you've been a very busy guy, so I'm wondering for coming up, how do you foresee entertainment kind of going back to shooting?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to be really safe. We were about to start our 11th season of Shameless, our final season of Shameless, in mid March. I think it was like March 17th. Obviously, we didn't start. Um, so that's been getting pushed, and they're just trying to find the safest way to go about it. We shoot the majority of it here in Los Angeles. Cases have been spiking, and so people are just trying to be careful. But I do think that movies like The Rental um, will probably be getting made more and more because it was just such a small movie. The crew was small, cast was small, um, and it was so kind of controlled. Us being in this small community in Bandon, and I think it's going to be easier to kind of make these smaller scale films now, obviously, than it is these bigger ones, because I think just less people will be safer. So I'm kind of excited to see what small movies come out of this time.
Well, yeah, maybe inspire some different forms of creativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jeremy, I want to say thank you for joining us here to talk about all of this and everything that you have going on, and what
Absolutely.
you've been
Thank
up
you for
to.
having me.
And I did have one other question just about being in quarantine. Something I'm kind of asking everybody: have you found any new hobbies that you've picked up that maybe you didn't have before, or that you've revisited?
I have. I've started a lot of hobbies, new hobbies, but I haven't had much follow through. So I've started learning French and dropped it. I started gardening. I dropped it. I have dropped a hobby that I'm very happy about. I was a smoker for 10 years, and I dropped that hobby, which is, I think, the biggest shift in hobbies that I'm very sort of happy about during this time.
Well, congratulations. That's good.
Thank
But
you very
I,
much.
like
Yes.
you, tried gardening, and I was terrible at gardening. So yeah, that didn't last very long for me.
Yeah,
either.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
French and gardening, I dropped. Yeah.
Well, Jeremy, thank you very much for joining us. I want to remind everybody, so The Rental, coming out July 24th, when people can check it out. It's going to be available on demand and in select drive-ins. Go see it. It looks really exciting. I'm excited to see it myself.
It is.
And
Thanks,
and
man.
thank you very much for being here with us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Jeremy Allen White right here on Digital Trends Live. And again, thank you everybody for joining us. So we broadcast live here every weekday. We're going to go to a break. We've got more coming up, so stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Hit that subscribe button. Join the show here every single weekday where we bring you all kinds of news, interviews, and discussions. And right now we've got news about entertainment because it's time for real news. And we are joined by our own Rick Marshall for this segment to keep us up to date with what's going on in the world of entertainment. Hello, Rick. And I guess what we start off with every single week is what's going on with theaters.
Yeah, this feels like a recurring theme here, and it's probably going to be the case for a while now. The latest is that Warner Brothers finally decided to just take Tenet, the Christopher Nolan film, that originally they were intending to sort of, usher in the reopening of theaters everywhere. They decided to take it off the calendar entirely and sort of wait to see what's going to happen with theaters. They kept pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back, and Christopher Nolan has insisted that he does not want to see this go streaming, so that will likely never happen. But right now, we have no idea when we're going to see it. So that's sort of where that film stands. And that was a really big one to sort of be taken off the calendar, and may end up causing sort of a domino effect with some of the other films after it.
Yeah, because this was supposed to be the big blockbuster, like you said, that brings everything back. But just to get your opinion on this, because I didn't realize this before all this was going down, but Christopher Nolan has a real vehement opposition to streaming. Is that right?
Yes, he is definitely an auteur filmmaker. He is a hardcore loyalist to film, to the cinema experience, to basically, I suspect that he would not want any of his films to be watched on like a mobile device, or even on like a screen smaller than anything that's in a normal theater, because he is a purist when it comes to films.
So we're not going to be seeing that one streaming anytime soon. So I guess we'll probably have another update next week on wherever that is. But going from there, something that is adapting to the times, and that's Comic-Con, because I know it's the 50th anniversary. It was supposed to be, obviously it's huge in San Diego, but they are kind of adapting to this. Can you walk us through like what's going on with them?
Well, after initially canceling Comic-Con entirely, and now they've brought it back in a different form. It's entirely virtual this year. It's a 5-day event. They're going to have over 350, about over 350 different events going on, but all virtual via Zoom, YouTube, things like that. They're going to bring in, creators from films, TV shows, comics, all that sort of stuff, and just be doing an entirely virtual event. Anybody can tune in from the comfort of their home, which I think is a real plus, having waited in the really long San Diego Comic-Con lines in the summer. So yeah, that's going on. There's some really big panels starting today, particularly Star Trek is coming, season 2 of The Boys as well as today. And then over the weekend, next couple of days, they have things like The Walking Dead, as well as Bill and Ted Face the Music.
And the Bill and Ted Face the Music one, that I know there were some details about that too that came out. Something about how it's going to be, how they're going to handle the release.
Yeah, so as of this morning, actually, they announced that Bill and Ted Face the Music, the long-awaited, third film in the Bill and Ted franchise, will be going both streaming, on-demand format, as well as theatrical release on September 1st. So sort of a same-day release, both in theaters wherever theaters are open, and streaming. So for anyone who wants to sort of rent it, via the video on demand, that's going to be an option too, which I think is a really smart move. Theaters are, in a very uncertain place right now, and I think studios are starting to warm to this on-demand way of delivering films because they've seen it have some success with some of the movies that were intended to get theatrical releases but went on demand. So I think this is great because, you don't need to risk your life to go to the theater. Now you can see Bill and Ted, in the comfort of your own home, which is very excellent.
Right? Oh, nice. That was fantastic. I mean, we could all use some Bill and Ted right now. I mean, come on, that is exactly what the world needs, in my opinion. I don't care even if this movie is good or not. I'm still going to enjoy it. I've just made up my mind on that. So, Bill and Ted Face the Music, September. Going from there, though, things that we can stream now at home.
Yeah, so there's a couple of decent things to stream coming up over the next couple of days, over the next week. For instance, Rogue Trip. It's a new series that's debuting on Disney+. It's debuting on Disney+ at a time when travel is very restricted for a whole lot of people around the world. It's a series basically with Bob Woodruff, the war correspondent, an ABC correspondent, longtime journalist, and his son. They travel around the world and sort of go to places that people maybe write off when they're doing their normal tourism. And so you get this sort of perspective on places that maybe people are afraid to go to or people don't think of as a typical tourist destination. And it's a really special series because Bob was wounded years ago. Very famously, he was wounded in Iraq. And one of the themes of the show is the fact that he doesn't want people to be scared to travel. He doesn't want people to be scared to go to some of these places. So he and his son sort of experience the local culture and all these great elements of the area and bring it to us at a time when we can't really get out of our houses all that often.
I love these kinds of shows during any time, but yeah, you're right. Like right now, that's also just a great opportunity. But these things where they, go places that most people don't think of. There's a bunch of these kinds of shows that are out now, and this is certainly one I'm going to be checking out. So Rogue Trip, there we go. That's a great one. And then there's some other things too that we've got.
Season 10 of Shameless. Season 10 of Shameless is hitting Netflix. That's a big deal because this is the penultimate season of the series. The Showtime series is the longest running scripted series on Showtime. It's got a huge fan following, follows a dysfunctional family that really just can't seem to get out of their own way, doing terrible things all the time, one more terrible than the next. But you can't not watch it. And so, season 10 comes out on Netflix, is arriving on Netflix, and season 11 will be the last one. We're not sure when that's coming out because it got held up due to the pandemic. So if you need to get caught up with Shameless, this is your opportunity on Netflix.
And it's so funny, right before we just had you on here for this segment, we just interviewed Jeremy Allen White, Lip from Shameless. So that's up for people to take a look at, too, for one of his movies. Shameless, season 10. Out on Netflix, July 26th. And then we've got something else from Amazon as well.
Yes, Jim Gaffigan's latest stand-up special, Jim Gaffigan, The Pale Tourist. Jim Gaffigan is one of those comedians who manages to not go raunchy and that sort of thing, and he's made quite a name for himself as one of the most successful comedians in the entire world. I honestly didn't even realize that he was one of the highest-grossing comedians in the entire world. That came as a shock to me, but he's won an Emmy. He's won Grammys. He's a New York Times best-selling author. And now his next special goes to Amazon, and it's a really unique format for him. In it, harkening back to what we were just talking about, he traveled around the world. And this whole special is made up of segments from him traveling to different countries, experiencing sort of local culture, meeting with people there. And then later on, he performed a stand-up special in that country, sort of based on his experiences. And this is made up of the segments from all of these stand-up specials in this huge Pale tour that he did. And, it's a really different kind of special for him that I'm really curious to find out about.
Yeah, I already love that idea too. These are some great recommendations that we've got here, which is why Real News is always awesome. Rick Marshall keeps us up to date with what's going on in entertainment and gets us these recommendations of things to watch. I've already got like 3 things off of this list now that I'm going to be checking out. But Rick, as always, people can go to digitaltrends.com and take a look at all of the breaking news, everything that's going on with movies and entertainment that you keep us up to date with. And I will talk to you next week.
All right, talk to you then.
All right, thanks so much, Rick Marshall, right here on Digital Trends Live for Real News. All right, coming up next, we've got a new episode of Robots Everywhere. Now, this is our series here from Digital Trends where we have new episodes that do pop up every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific on our YouTube channels. That's what you need to do. Hit subscribe to our YouTube channel every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. A new episode of Robots Everywhere will go up, and it's a great series, so we want you to check this out. So let's go ahead and watch one here coming up after this. We'll be right back with more Digital Trends Live.
Large, robots exist to do good things. That's usually what we build them for. They vacuum our floors, they work on assembly lines, and they even play fetch with our dogs. But there's one area where robots span the full spectrum, and in addition to doing good, they also get unnervingly close to being evil and taking over the world. I'm talking, of course, about military robots. I'm Drew Prindle, and this is Robots Everywhere, a show where we chronicle the slow but steady takeover of our future robot overlords, and show you how they're making their way into practically every facet of modern life. So, military robots are a tricky thing because on the one hand, they support military efforts and reduce the need for human soldiers to put their lives on the line. But on the other hand, robots that can autonomously kill people are definitely a really bad idea. Do we want a hostile robot takeover? Because that's how we get a hostile robot takeover. I'm pretty sure don't give them guns and free will is the message behind just about every sci-fi robot movie ever made. Except for maybe like WALL-E. The good news is that luckily, the vast majority of military robots aren't made for killing people. Instead, many are designed to help soldiers out and prevent them from getting killed. An excellent example of this comes from iRobot. And no, I'm not talking about that early 2000s movie where Will Smith fights against a humanoid machine that looks freakishly similar to that guy who played the angry bank owner in The Dark Knight. The iRobot I'm talking about is the company that makes Roombas. Believe it or not, that company actually got its start developing robots for the military back in the 1990s, and it built this one called the PackBot, which is still used by the military today and is capable of doing all kinds of amazing things. One great use is bomb disposal. Let's say soldiers come across some kind of explosive ordnance, and instead of sending in shaky hand Sam with a pair of wire cutters and hoping for the best, they can just drive one of these robots over to either pick up the explosive and move it, or just blow it up while the human operators watch from a safe distance. That's just the tip of the iceberg though. Depending on what kind of instruments you put on it, PackBot can also be used for things like search and rescue, hazmat detection, hauling supplies so that soldiers don't have to pack them, which, based on its name, I think may have been the original purpose. There's even one version that can detect where snipers are hiding by analyzing where the sound of their shot came from. And that's all with just one robot. There are thousands of others out there right now fighting alongside troops. Another good example? The Modular Advanced Armed Robotic System, or MARS robot. This monster packs a bit more punch than the PackBot. It's designed to carry guns, grenade launchers, and pretty much any other weapon that you want it to hold. I mean, that's the point of being modular. You can put on whatever you want. These robots and others like them are basically like RC cars that can shoot stuff. They're remotely operated and controlled by humans that decide when to pull the trigger, so there's very little chance that the robot could go rogue. But that's the thing, not all military robots work like this and function like weaponized RC cars. In recent years, as artificial intelligence has started making its way into the battlefield, military robots have become capable of doing more and more things without any human intervention whatsoever. Take the now infamous Predator drone, for example. This flying robotic beast can do almost everything autonomously. It can take off, land, acquire targets, track them, and prepare to engage. The only thing it can't do by itself is fire, which still has to be done by a human operator. But importantly, the only reason that last step, actually pulling the trigger, has to be done by a human isn't because of some kind of technical limitation. It could do it if we allowed it to. A human has to pull the trigger because fully autonomous lethal machines are prohibited by the Geneva Convention. So it's not technology that's holding the Predator drone back from being a self-driving murder plane, it's rules. But unfortunately, the rules of war aren't always upheld because, after all, it's war. You can use whatever the hell you want. Guns, robots, a dog turd and a wrist rocket. The rules of war don't really hold up if there's no impactful way to enforce them. And for that reason, the number of highly autonomous military robots in development is on the rise. Just to give you a few examples, the US Navy recently deployed the Sea Hunter, an autonomous surface ship that's specifically designed to hunt and kill enemy submarines, all without a single human on board ever. This thing was almost certainly developed in response to military robot advances in other countries, like Russia's Poseidon drone, for example, which is a nuclear-armed, nuclear-powered, and totally autonomous submarine/torpedo of doom. There's a similar arms race happening in the air as well. The US is currently developing a bunch of autonomous fighter jets, like Boeing's Loyal Wingman, a jet that's primarily designed to fly alongside human pilots and offer support, but is also capable of flying and fighting all by itself, or in totally unmanned swarms of up to 16 drones. It's almost exactly like that awful Jamie Foxx movie Stealth, but without the box office flop. This, of course, comes in the wake of news that China and Russia, the world's other military superpowers, are working on autonomous fighters, missiles, and drones of their own. So, whether we like it or not, fully autonomous military robots are already here, and more are coming. In the next few years, military robots will very likely become a common sight on the battlefield, simply because the world's most powerful militaries are actively engaged in an autonomous arms race. And arms races tend to escalate quickly. But hey, maybe one day we'll reach a point where it's exclusively robots doing the fighting, and us humans can just stay out of it. So when it comes to warfare, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing to have robots everywhere.
All right, this is Digital Trends Live. And again, we've got a new episode of Robots Everywhere going up tomorrow. That is Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, and that is going to be on our YouTube channel. So hit subscribe on there and hit subscribe on whatever platform you're watching to stay up to date with technology, because Digital Trends Live is here every weekday also at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Tomorrow on the show, we've got Lisa Marie Segarra who's going to recap what is going on with the Xbox event, how does Halo Infinite look, all of that we'll be talking about tomorrow. And we'll also have Jesse McCartney on. Yes, he put out a new video that is animated, something that's kind of different here now during quarantine. How is that changing the music industry, how our video is going to look? We're going to talk about that as well. And we'll also have Tech Briefs recapping some of the biggest stories in technology from this last week as you go into your weekend. So thank you everybody for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll be right back here tomorrow with another edition of Digital Trends Live.